What will you sacrifice for victory? Your time? Your future? Your life? They say that it's lonely at the top. However, the truth is that everyone is chasing after you. There can only be one. The number one is always ready to sacrifice everything, to stare in the eyes of death and tell him nothing will stop me. The one that wants to achieve a goal needs more than talent or luck. One needs determination to pursue a difficult path and courage to walk it until the bitter end. Nobody knew that these two characteristics will accompany James Hunt for the rest of his life when he was being born in the suburbs of London. However, the signs were visible already in his early childhood. The rebellious and energetic Hunt showed pronounced ambitions for sport competitions, not only to participate in them, but to win them. He was also ready to walk his own path to glory, so he taught himself to play squash and tennis. Later, his path led him to the final of the junior championships at Wimbledon. At the end, he only had to admit defeat to an opponent 4 years older. The second place would be a success for most at his age, something to be proud of. Not so for Hunt. He was deeply hurt not to have reached the top. You are only truly serious if you are not satisfied with half victories. Just ahead of his 18th birthday, Hunt was taken by a friend to an event that will shape his future life, a car race. James Hunt was thrilled, and a new goal started to take root in his heart. He wants to start his motorsport career. His parents couldn't and didn't want to support him in this endeavor, so he had no other choice than to start all over again from zero. For 2 years he worked odd jobs to save up for a Mini and create his own race car, even though he had no prior experience with mechanics at all. After 2 years, the big day arrived, his first race, at which he was excluded because he wanted to start with a lawn chair as a driver's seat. After he purchased a real seat, his journey could really take off. His enthusiastic driving style led to several crashes, instilling fears in him. However, courage means to face one's fears and not to run away from them. He proceeded on his path regardless of his fears. He would work in a call center to be able to finance the races, and not long after an opportunity presented itself, which allowed him to buy a Formula Ford car at half price. Of course, he couldn't afford the car and maintenance. However, he bet everything on his skills. Surely, with success, he would be approached by sponsors to pay for his career. Success, scandals, and spectacular crashes were equally distributed over his Formula Ford days. His emotional, hot-headed character on and off the racetrack have given him the inglorious nickname Hunt the Shunt. Regardless, his bet paid off. 1 year later, his ascent into Formula 3 has been sponsored, and sometimes later he will be part of the March team. What will you do if you have too much money and were bored to death? A serious question for the young Lord Hesketh after he inherited a fortune. What about founding a Formula 3 team just for fun? Exactly, this was what the Lord did together with his not-so-talented driver Anthony Bubbles Horsley. A lucky coincidence would bring them together with Hunt, which fitted perfectly into the group. Young, charismatic, a playboy, and damn fast. He replaced Horsley, which instead took over the place of the team manager, a task he would perform with much enthusiasm. The trio wouldn't spend much time in Formula 3 and 2. They quickly realized that a promotion to Formula 1 wouldn't cost much more, but on the other hand, it promised much more prestige and fun to play with the big boys. At their first race in 1974, the other teams laughed at them, not unjustified. The team was already known in the lower classes for arriving in a Rolls-Royce, having the mechanics spend their nights in a 5-star hotel, and supposedly having more girls in the boxes than mechanics. However, the competition soon lost their love. Their car was not a revolution, instead it was simple and effective, and more importantly, the man behind the wheel was ambitious, focused and fast, at least during the races. The three of them achieved several podiums and race success during the 3 seasons they spent together. The fastest way from being a billionaire to becoming a millionaire is to participate in Formula 1, a wisdom that holds as true today as it did back then. Even Lord Hesketh, at a certain point could no longer afford to sponsor a team. For Hunt, this meant that he had to look for new employees. Luckily, Emerson Fittipaldi decided to leave McLaren by the end of the season, and Hunt took this place instead. This set the stage for his most defining season in 1976, as he took the seat of the McLaren M23. On the 25th January 1976, the race cars were pushed for the first time to the starting grid. A start into a season that would write history and capture fans for decades to come. Hunt has directly grabbed the pole position with Niki Lauda right behind him. The reigning champion Lauda got better off the line and led the race unchallenged in his more advanced Ferrari. This race report would be repeated many times over the first half of the season. Hunt was the fastest man in one lap during qualifying, but lost out at the start against Lauda. However, Hunt not only fought against the other drivers but also against Ferrari, which knew how to use the rules for their advantage. Hunt was disqualified after his victory in the fourth race because his car was allegedly 20 mm too wide, just to be reinstated as deserving winner 2 months later after the judgment had been revoked. Hunt gave his home crowd a reason to celebrate at the British Grand Prix. He won the chaotic race after a restart, at least until Ferrari objected because Hunt changed into a replacement car for this very restart. Ironically, Ferrari did the exact same with their second driver. At the halfway of the season, Niki Lauda led James Hunt by 23 points. However, Hunt wasn't discouraged by the difficult start into the season nor by the hurdles that were placed in his path. Giving up was not part of his nature. His sight was fixed solely on winning instead. The upcoming race on the notorious Nordschleife would become a tragic part of history that nearly took the life of Niki Lauda and would scar him for life. Regardless of the dramatic crash, the race was restarted after a short break and Hunt would go on to win it. At this point in time, nobody will know if Lauda would recover and if he ever would enter a Formula car again. With his biggest rival out of the picture, Hunt could have taken it easy. But Hunt wouldn't be Hunt if he didn't give his all at each and every race. He also knew Lauda too well to sign him off that easily. And he was right. Surprisingly, Lauda returned to the grid after missing 2 races, just in time for the Italian Grand Prix. So surprisingly, even that Ferrari had to use the replacement car and would start with 3 drivers. And so it came that the championship would be decided in the very last race of the season. Hunt was separated by only 3 points to Lauda. All or nothing. Japan would become the scene of an all-deciding duel between 2 legends. The air trembled with excitement. Hunt soon approached 30 years of age and wanted finally to clutch his world championship title. He knew that his clock was ticking. What you cannot achieve by mid of 30, you wouldn't achieve afterwards, he told once in an interview. His whole focus was on the 4.3 km of the Fuji racetrack that was overtowered by the volcanic mountain of the same name. The qualifying was decided by a split second between Hunt and the final pole star Mario Andretti. Niki Lauda was again lurking just 1 place behind. Heaven would open all its gates on the day of the race with monsoon-like rainfalls, standing water on the track and the view blocked by heavy fog. Undrivable conditions today. Back then, the decision of each individual driver. Is it worth it to climb into a fuel-filled rocket and risk one's life? James Hunt asked himself this question as well. The fear of crashing is still imbued in him from his early days in motorsport, and the risk ahead was immense. However, he hasn't come so far to give up now, so close to the triumph. He took all his courage, surpassed his fears and rolled to the starting line. After so many bad starts in the season, this one was perfect. He already entered the first corner in the lead, and after the first lap he had a safe gap to the second placed car, a lap which Niki Lauda wouldn't finish. He entered the pits immediately after the start and finished the race there with the statement, "My life is worth more than a title." Hunt would continue his race unaffected. He had to finish at least in 4th position to gain enough points for the championship trophy. He had the race well in control and already saw the victory ahead. until a puncture forced him to pit with just a few laps to go. When he left the pits, he was in 5th position. The championship dream seemed to have slipped through his fingers. Determination and courage. Hunt wouldn't be satisfied with a 2nd place. Nothing could stop him now. He drove like a lion pursuing its prey, gaining on the car ahead, second by second. For a brief millisecond, he closed his eyes and saw his future. Over the next 3 seasons, he will drive uncompetitive cars. He saw his withdrawal from the sport. James Hunt longed deeply for a family. In this millisecond, he would see all his future, how he would become a commentator for the BBC instead of being a legendary driver. His 2 beloved sons would wait at home. He believed a life like the one he was living couldn't remain stable for long. He also saw how he will die in 1993 after a heart attack in his sleep, mere hours after he proposed to his newfound love. He opened his eyes again. His future was set, but he swore that death wouldn't stand in his way on this Sunday. With just 2 laps to go, he overtook the 2 drivers in front of him with skill and courage. When the checkered flag fell, he was on the 3rd position, enough points to become the new world champion. James Hunt was more than a simple playboy as he was often portrayed. He fought for his title until the last minute. The determination to give everything for victory. The courage to face fear and death. I ask you again, what are you willing to sacrifice for victory?
The end of the road, you'd done it. You'd won the World Championship. What was the thrill?
I'd always wanted to be a winner in life, as it were, and I could never have called myself a winner if I didn't win the World Championship, because that was what I set out to do. And when you achieve what you set out to do, it's really a very good feeling.